Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, your host. And today with me, I have somebody that I am super excited to bring for you. Her name is Gurjeet Minhas. Did I say that correctly, Gurjeet?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And just
Fantastic.
people call me Professor G or Professor Gurjeet, so that's fine.
I'm going to call you Professor G from now on. That's cool. So, this is the important thing. When I speak to Gurjeet or Professor G, what ends up happening is it brings me back to the days where I was in private practice. And it also brings me back to what I created way back when we were doing Optimal Beginnings about 6, 7 years ago. And what is amazing about it is that her story and what she has been doing tells me that the situation has not gotten better. If anything, it has gotten worse. So, parents to be, grandparents, please listen up. This topic is very close and dear to my heart, and Gurjeet is in the heart of it. So, without further ado, Gurjeet, thank you for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that you're a professor, you teach, you have a business, there's multiple things that you're doing, and you got your hands full. So, I really appreciate you being here. And thank you, audience, for tuning in to listen to this important message. So, Professor G, tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and why you are so passionate to work on this topic and with this group of people.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ali, for asking me. And of course, like you mentioned, I'm a professor at the university and I teach students who are going to become registered nurses. And my specialization is all about, helping the woman during her pregnancy, during the time of her birth, and after birth, and to help her to get the best experience possible. And what I found was that people think, that they are going to have the best experience because they just want it. But that's not the case. When they come to the hospital, they are totally dependent on others. And if only they had done some preparation, you know, got their bodies in shape, got their mindset right, it would be a different experience altogether. But I never found that. And I found first time moms going for C-sections, going for, resorting to drugs. And that just pierced my heart. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because that's the moment I made a decision that I am going to make a difference.
Right.
And that's what I'm about.
Right. And here's the thing, it is not that those valuable medical procedures are not important. It has saved lives. There are millions of people in the world today that if it wasn't because of that, they would not be here with us. So it is definitely an important thing. And when I was going through school, that rate was someplace around 8 to 10% of the people that needed the medical intervention so that the mother would be saved, so that the child would be born. And so it is necessary. But you just told me just before we had our call something really interesting about your current experience. Do you mind sharing that with us?
Yes, absolutely. And you are spot on with what you said. The medical system definitely has a place. And WHO recommends that, up to 10 to 12% C-section rate is okay, because that could be where it's actually warranted. But in so many instances, Dr. Ali, I found that women, if they prepared themselves, if they were relaxed and their minds were peaceful, the birth process would flow so much easier. And there wouldn't be, instances where the woman gave up and said, well, I just can't do it. And that's when the medical system would come in. So that's the issue that I'm talking about.
Right. Now, one of the things is I also experienced this that some women have this fear of this natural process of pregnancy and childbirth. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? Because we get bombarded by social media and movies in so many different ways. And parenting and parenthood sometimes feels like an afterthought or something to do on a checklist, but not actually as a part of our natural life cycle. So do you mind talking a little bit about that and the importance of having that type of a mindset?
Yes. So if you were to say, okay, many, many years ago, women had natural childbirths and the rate of C-sections and interventions and medications during birth wasn't that high. And why was that so? That's what you just mentioned, the social media programming. Now with social media, it's so easy to get on social media and tap into all the fears that women are expressing and the experiences that they had. And typically the mind is something that tends to focus on the negative experiences. So any negative experience that you hear or see on social media influences you, and it causes a lot of fears to come and have their home in your body. And what do you think this fear does? This fear causes energetic blocks. And these energetic blocks hinder the natural childbirth process. So that's where the issue is.
Exactly. It's such a self-fulfilling prophecy of, what you focus on. And the more you focus on it, your cortisol levels go up and your stress hormones show up. And then as that happens, this cascade of mechanisms and systems start happening in your body without an actual physical existence of threat, basically. So it's so imperative to focus on creating, as you said, a joyous experience of pregnancy, a joyous birth, and making sure that that's actually what the experience ends up being, the joyous one. So oftentimes, as we talk about some of these things that exist out there, there are challenges, right? So we have women that are not prepared professionally, personally, to take on the pregnancy or the motherhood experience, and so they have to adapt and accommodate. And our lifestyle is not always conducive to that. So I could see that being one of the challenges. What are some of the challenges that you're currently seeing with our mothers that are planning to have a family?
Yes, thank you for that question. That is super important. In the past, or I would say like many years ago, the system was so different. There was more of family involved. Like it could be a joint family, it could be your mother coming to stay with you, it could be a lot of help that you would get at home. And
Mhm.
now this current lifestyle is just not allowing that to happen. And that is the issue because with no support, where do you turn to? You just don't know. You don't have an elder advising you. You
Right.
don't, I mean, you go on Google and there's so much information. It's so easy to get into a state of overwhelm and then say, okay, this one says this, that person says this. What exactly should I be doing? What's the right thing for me to do? You really don't know. So you're in that state of confusion and overwhelm. Secondly, it's the modern lifestyle. Look at the foods we eat. We are not, like in the past, there was homemade cooking. We'd cook everything at home and we'd eat that. And nowadays, it's so easy. You just, go on your telephone, type in, and just order. Some people order every day. They think it's like a status symbol, or because they can afford it, they're ordering. But what sort of food are they eating? What are they putting in their body?
Right.
Is it actually strengthening your body? Or is it just, giving you the satisfaction that you've had your meal? That's the second one. And finally, it's up to you yourself. Are you setting aside time to prepare for your baby? Or are you like, do you think, oh, well, we have time, I'll look at that. And then before you know it, your 9 months have gone and it's time for the baby to come.
Professor G, I often talk about some of these things that you're saying as investments. So whether it is time or whether it is knowledge or whether it happens to be that, you're sacrificing something for convenience. Well, what that really entails is that there is a cost to that convenience. And sometimes you don't know that cost until later on. So it's important for us to invest our time in things that matter so that later on, as you're investing time into something, it should technically free up more of your time down the road from therapies and sessions and all these other complications that can arise. So having these challenges, naturally, there needs to be a change. But I know that when you try to change things, there are challenges associated with the change itself too, right? So what are some of those challenges that the mothers that decide to do things differently face, in your opinion?
Some of the things that come to mind are that the woman may just, not be in the space where she's supported by her family. That's one thing. They might say, oh, you have these weird ideas, and we never did things this way. So, when you talk to people around you, they don't support you in this new way of thinking. But the important thing here, I really want to point out, is that what you do affects your baby. And this is where actually the impact you can have on your child begins. And the emotions you feel, the thoughts you think, the fears in your system, the trauma, psychological trauma that you may go through, it all impacts the newborn, not newborn, I should say the unborn, because we tend to think of the baby once it's born and we say, oh, here's the baby. But the growth and development starts when the baby's inside you.
Right. Exactly. And it's funny. And so there's that side of it that, you impact the baby, and if you make choices in favor of convenience and these things, that can affect the baby negatively. But the plus side of that also is that if you make the right choices, you set the wheels in motion for a lifelong joyous process of parenting and family life and so on and so forth. So I want you guys to focus on that part, not the fear of avoiding things that are going to screw up your baby, but the joy of being able to experience pregnancy. Like, this is one of the things, Dr. G, that I mentioned, Professor G, that many of the things that people consider typical, whether it's pregnancy or child development, it's not actually typical. As the society becomes more and more unhealthy and less of what we evolved to be or how we were supposed to be, what ends up happening is we steer away from what was optimally designed within us. So people talk about having swollen joints and not being able to stand up or walk or do anything during pregnancy. People talk about painful and complicated childbirth. People talk about developmental delays and issues that arise with behavior, academic issues. And the reality is that we hear that more and more often, and that doesn't make it normal. And the fact is that when you make these right choices, many of these things that people complain about as being normal, you actually don't relate to. Like, you can be active into your last trimester without any problem. You can have a child perform at levels that you never thought was even possible, to the point where you think your kids are geniuses. Kids are geniuses. But anyways, so I want our audience to focus on that positive side, that investment that kind of yields dividends in that sense. All right. So having said that, Professor G, what are some of the tips and secrets that our audience members that are considering family could actually start doing right away, right after this, that might be beneficial and putting it in the right way?
Thank you for asking that, Dr. Ali. Now, the foremost tip that I can give you is take responsibility. Take responsibility for yourself, your health, your baby, your birth, everything. Take responsibility. And how do you take that responsibility? By preparing yourself. Because if you prepare yourself, things are in your control. Things can go very well. You don't have to depend on getting pain medications. You don't have to depend on your body giving up and not having the strength during childbirth. You don't have to face all that. If only you would prepare yourself. And preparation can be just not physical preparation. It can be your mind, having a mindset that you can birth easily, eliminating all the fears from your system, and finally ensuring that you have proper support. Support is so important. It could be your partner, it could be a relative, it could be, outside support that you can entail, or you can, like, for example, I think people are aware of it now. You can ask for a doula to support you if you don't have anybody around you. So things like that. And then finally, the most important thing is ensuring your own support at the time of birth with all the preparation that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That support is critical. So both the responsibility and the support resonates deeply with role model maker. We oftentimes talk about the fact that if you want your children to not be victims, if you want your children to feel connected and supported in the world, what better example than the parents? So if you show that you are in control, you are in charge of your life, you are responsible for the decisions and take responsibility for it and are proactive about what happens to you, the children will internalize that. And by the same token, when you ask for support and are not afraid of, a lot of heart-centered people, a lot of service-oriented people are afraid of asking for support. They think it shows that they're not capable. And that is not the case here. The point is, when you reach out, you give another person the opportunity to help. They grow in the process, you bond and you feel more supported. It's a win-win situation. And the more we do that in the community, the better we all end up being. So if we ask for support, we teach our kids to get connected with the community. We teach our kids to help other people and grow in the process. So very important to know how to ask and to know how to receive support. So thank you for bringing those 2 points up. Professor G, I can talk to you forever about this concept, and there is just so much depth to all of that. But please tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you. I know you have a multitude of programs and things that not only are you launching, but you're also currently doing. So tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you and follow you. And then we'll be sure to put those in the description box below as well.
Absolutely. So if you wish to connect by email, you can just email me at info@joyouschildbirth.com. Once again, info@joyouschildbirth.com. And if you have something really urgent and you just say, oh, I have to connect with Professor G, I can share my telephone number, 604-726-6043. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I know you're in LinkedIn and everything as well. So guys, take this opportunity. You have at hand a real heart-centered expert is doing great things in the world in many different facets. So connect and follow her and share her expertise. If you are a new parent, if you are a parent of a parent, or if you're soon to be a parent, please make sure that you share this information, that you take action on the stuff that we just talked about, and connected with your community as well. The support is out there for you. We want to make sure that you lead a happy, healthy, and thriving life. We want to make sure that your children get to experience that and internalize that and ultimately be able to share their gifts with the world and optimize humanity's potential as well. So before we go, Professor G, do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience?
Yes, that was just what was going on in my mind. And that is the trauma. Sometimes, some women experience trauma during pregnancy, and it could be during birth, and it could be even after birth. And that is huge. And people just say, oh, that traumatic incident happened. And because I'm a certified hypnotherapist, I've traced it down to the time the person was, in their mom's womb. And the trauma that their mom had is what they have been carrying with them throughout their life, and that's influencing their day-to-day activities. But let me tell you, there's help, and that's one of the things I do. I can help you to clear that trauma that you've experienced during pregnancy so it doesn't actually transmit to your baby. And you can then have a happier and healthier baby, mentally and physically.
Very, very powerful. Absolutely. Beautifully said. And it's just one more of those things. This is why we need the professionals and the experts to kind of guide us, because many of these things are not even on our radar. We don't know what we don't know, right? So thank you for being here. We hope to see you guys in the future episodes. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you can see all of our experts and their gifts as we interview them. And Professor G, I look forward to further collaborations. We definitely could do an entire session on trauma in the future. So I look forward to seeing you then. Cheers.
Thank you. My pleasure.